Hey everybody, welcome to Music Biz Live. I'm Portia Sabin, the president of the Music Business Association. We've been doing these Zoom sessions for the past 5 weeks, but as you all know, this week is special because it would have been Music Biz 2020. We all would have been together at the JW Marriott in Nashville, but unfortunately, we are instead on this awesome internet system together. Which is not unfortunate. It's actually awesome. It's been amazing. This has been an amazing week. Today is our final one of these, and we are so thrilled to talk later on with Tom Corson and Aaron Bay-Schuck, the co-chairman of Warner Records. But first, I would like to acknowledge all of our presenting partners and thank them for helping to get the word out about this series. I'd especially like to thank our sponsors, and I'm excited to be able to shine a spotlight on one sponsor in particular, Blocker. So please welcome Phil Berry, the CEO of Blocker.
Yeah, thank you, Portia. Let me say how impressed I've been with Music Business Association's response to this present situation, providing essential information, support to our industry during this difficult period and putting together this fantastic program of online events. So hello everybody, sorry that we're not able to meet in person this time around. I was really looking forward to making the trip over to Nashville this month, and I'm looking forward to meeting up again in person once everything gets back to normal. I know that you're all eager as I am to hear from Aaron and Tom, so I'll keep this nice and short, but I'm going to give you a little quick flavour of Blocker. So for those of you not familiar with Blocker, Blocker is a platform that helps music publishers and songwriters get paid what they should, when they should, by ensuring that their rights are accurately represented. So we're a data hub that combines and cleans global publishing rights data from different sources and then delivers corrections and enriched information to societies and other sources of income. And we work with about 50 different music publishers of all shapes and sizes, from the majors to the smallest independents. And we also make it easier for the users of music, whether they be digital streaming platforms, TV companies, or video games producers, to identify the writers and publishers behind the music that they use to maximize income for rights holders and creators, and to save everybody a lot of time and effort. So underpinning our platform is unique matching technology that treats every song as a kind of a web of relationships between writers, publishers, artists, and recordings. And this allows us to find more matches with a higher level of accuracy. That means fewer duplicate song registrations, fewer missed conflicts, and then at the end of the day, more income for our clients. And once we've matched and combined all the claims on a song, then the platform automatically identifies and analyzes conflicts and errors and helps publishers fix them before spinning out the result, the corrections, to people making decisions about who's going to get paid. And also, once your catalog's on the platform, we can start to generate commercial insights about your music. So Blocker Performance matches your songs to digital charts around the world, let you know how your catalog's doing over time, and help you know where your music's most popular, so you can predict where you should be earning royalties. But I won't keep you any longer from the main event, but if you work with publishing rights, either as a publisher yourself or as a creator, as a society or agency, or even as a user of music, I'd love to talk with you and see how we can help. It's free for music publishers to sign up to our Copyright Hub, and this is how you can reach me. Thanks very much, and enjoy the main event.
Thank you so much, Phil. That was great. So I just want to let everyone know that although this is our last Music Biz Week conversation for this week, it is not our last Music Biz Live. We will be returning in 2 weeks with another great session, and there's more to come after that, so please stay tuned. And now, it's my great pleasure to introduce my guests, co-chairman of Warner Records, Tom Corson and Aaron Bay-Schuck.
Hey, Portia.
Hey, guys.
Portia, good afternoon.
How are you?
Doing great, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, hanging in there. You know, I don't know. Do either of you have small children at home?
No, I have big children.
Wow, you guys,
children in my house.
You are living the dream. Let me tell you. I'm here to tell you, it's an added layer of excitement to.
We have a number of employees, and a number of our calls have been interrupted by kids offering their own opinions about our expertise. So we're open to that.
Yeah.
The young ones are pretty good A&R people though, so it's come in handy a couple times.
It's good to have them around, although they're rather influenceable, because I'm here to tell you that my son is now in love with Travis Scott because he's a Fortnite player. So now all I listen to all day long is Travis Scott. So whoever thought of that is a genius, that little collaboration.
Yeah.
So everyone is super excited to hear from you guys. We're very lucky to have you together. This is your first interview together, I believe, as co-chairman of the new Warner Records. So, we've had a lot of firsts this week. We talked on Monday with Marianne Dykes and Jeremy Ehrlich of Spotify, who are also doing the co-head thing. And I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of change in the industry right now. I think people are understanding that sometimes two heads are kind of better than one. So I wanted to start off with, let's talk about your arranged marriage. How did you guys come to get put together?
Aaron, why don't you take this one?
Sure, I'll jump in. I mean, really, it's the brainchild of Max Lusada. He approached us each individually about our respective roles. And it really, wasn't until we had essentially committed to taking on those jobs that we found out who our partner was going to be.
Wow.
It was really the last piece of information before we both took the leap. And, Tom and I had some brief encounters in years past, but we didn't know each other too well. But I knew right from Jump Street that if I was going to be the sole chairman of the record company, I wasn't as interested as I was when I was told there would be a partner. I think it is a tremendously large job. There are so many different areas of expertise required to run a major label successfully these days. And to have two complementary skill sets that enable each of us to focus most of the time on what it is we do best, I think it just makes for a much stronger company. Especially, we had the added challenge of really redefining and reimagining what Warner was going to stand for moving forward. And so when you add that piece, that element into it, to have two people and of course our senior executive team supporting us every step of the way, not only does it make it more fun, but it makes it more achievable. And so, we've been very lucky to have it really feel like a match made in heaven. I can't imagine anybody else as a partner. Tom and I share a love for music. We share a love for golf. We share a love for good wine. He's putting me on to a new thing every time I ask, and a lot more. We just have a lot in common, even though we are apart in age. His experience really helps me, since it's my first time at a job at this level. I can go to him and say, let's try it this way. No one's ever done it before. And he can say, that's a good idea. Or he can say, well, let me give you 10 reasons why no one's ever done that before. Because I've tried it here, and it doesn't work. And he has such an appreciation and understanding for A&R. I think no A&R person is complete unless they understand how the rest of the company works and they're driving things through the building. So we both subscribe to the philosophy that A&R and marketing and streaming and press and all of this has to be incredibly intertwined. And we can step in for each other when the other one can't be present. We can really divide and conquer because we do have areas of experience in all sides. So that's how we got here, and that's how it's feeling. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but
No, I think you covered it all, and thanks for those nice comments. Appreciate it. It's mutual.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's mutual.
Oh, that's sweet, you guys. So I talk on my podcast all the time about, people who want to get into the music business. When they think about the music business, I mean, a lot of people want to become musicians, but then people sometimes sort of transition into the music business. And some people are just born wanting to get into the music business. And I know, Aaron, you're one of those people. You didn't stop at musician first. But I think, A&R is the sexy job, right? That's the one where people are like, oh yeah, I want to be the A&R guy. I want to go out and meet the bands and work with, stay out all night at clubs and do all this stuff. But as someone who has run a record label for 13 years, I'm here to tell you there is a lot more to running a record label than just the sexy A&R part. And sometimes, I mean, there's absolutely different strengths and different skill sets. So Tom, I know you come from more of a marketing and operations background, and that is critical to keeping the lights on and keeping everything working.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, I've done a little bit of a lot of things, including a little bit of A&R, not particularly well, but I've had a couple of lucky strikes. But the reality is my skill set is best set helping to develop and break artists, and to keep the team moving and motivated, make sure we're hitting our numbers, make sure that we can keep the lights on and then some. And so I came into this business kind of by accident. I loved music and bought and consumed a lot of music and went to concerts from the time I was a young kid. But, I backed into this music business by accident, thought I was going to do it for a couple of years and go get a real job. And, thank God I didn't have to get a real job. So the beauty of it is that but I always think I thought a little bit differently, especially in the first half of my career, a little bit differently than most label executives at that time. And as it turned out, when the downturn came, it served me and I think the companies I worked for very well, because I had a more data-driven view of things. I had a more branding view of things. I sort of looked across disciplines and categories. I had a global view of things because I was lucky enough to run an international department for a few years. So it really, the business kind of came around to sort of what I was thinking and how I was moving. And now those, I can't think of hiring somebody who didn't have a pretty good idea of how to read analysis and understand data and move things and think globally and think about brands and how to tie in. And I think it's been the most fun part of the business, is the fact that it's become a real business in that sense, that you can't busk it anymore. It can't just be done on vibe. You have to have a skill set, and that applies to A&R people as well. The best A&R people have a marketing sense, a business sense. And there's some fabulous A&R people that are mostly creative, but they always have to have an eye towards where the end zone is, and that's critical.
Absolutely. Aaron, you look like you wanted to jump in.
No, I was just going to reiterate that last part. That's priority number one for our A&R people. Is there's no step of the process that they're not riding shotgun with the marketing person, with the commerce person, with the promotion person. They're the ones in theory who are the closest to the artist and have the best, elevator pitch, the best way to articulate and speak for the artist when the artist isn't there to speak for themselves. And I think no longer is A&R necessarily the sexiest. It's the sexiest is who's just coming with the idea that's going to push this artist forward. Who's going to come up with the idea that's not so much, we got a great hit song, but how are we going to really roll that out in a credible, meaningful way that connects that artist to the culture so that it's not just a song? It is so essential to define real artist propositions today. And Tom and his side of the company, are doing that just as much as the A&R people, if not even more.
Yeah, I think what's really sexy right now is being on the forefront of social and games and data and commerce, and being in that milieu, that to me, that because there's a lot of creative in that, the data is there as a platform to be creative and to outcompete the competition. It's not there to tell you exactly what to do all the time. It can tell you what not to do more than what to do. But that's where I find that really exciting from a marketer's point of view.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say too, as A&R departments have become so heavily reliant on data and analytics to help point them in the right direction of, about a viable signing, it has taken a little bit of the sexiness and mystery out of the process. Of course, we are still signing plenty of things with no data that we just love and think can go on to become future superstars. That's a big part of how we're building this new version of Warner Records. But, we're definitely following the data. And very frequently what might be working might not be something that we love or that there isn't any mystery behind. It might just be something that we can get behind and build to tap into a fan base that's already raising their hand and saying that we love this, and we just hit the ground running. It's a different thing. Of course, being close to the artist is always the quote unquote sexiest part, but the process these days has lost a little bit of its mystique here or there. I think the sexiness is spread across all departments these days.
I know. And the really sad part is we had Chris Aaron from the MLC on Tuesday. And when we started talking about metadata, the chat went insane. So it's like, oh my God, we're just living in a world where metadata is the sexy part of this business now, which is frightening me. So let's talk about Warner Records, because you guys basically, you came into the situation, a company with a rich legacy, a rich history, and really you had two tasks, right? And I would say those were definition and innovation, right? So you're going to define yourself, rebrand, become something new. You had this opportunity to change the name of the label, which you did. And so can you just tell us the process of like, how did you guys put your heads together and say, how are we going to redefine ourselves in this day and age?
Yeah, well, we a couple of things. We had a lot of internal discussion about that, and it started about 8 months prior to Aaron being able to join us, and so he was He was not peripherally involved. He was involved as much as he could be at the time, but had a huge impact on the input. We were also had the benefit of working with an agency, Pentagram, who were very, very well thought of in the space, and our corporate folks as well, including Max and James Stephen in our communications lab up there, who really guided us through this. And so, it started with, sort of what can the logo look like? What can the name be? And we went through a process that usually takes 18 months to 2 years. And within 6 months, actually 8 months, we had a solution. We actually had a solution after 6 months that had to be revised because we couldn't get it past the clearance hurdles. And so, but when we went into our DNA and we examined and we questioned a number of people at the company about what they thought Warner Records, or at that time Warner Brothers Records, was about, we got a lot of really valuable feedback from all levels of the company. And as we went through it, we looked at, I think when we came down to the finals, there were 3 designs that had been laid out to us amongst 75 different ideas that came in, and a lot of different examining of who we are. And we settled on a new mission, which is art and impact, So we want to have the flexibility of an indie, the innovation, the chance taking that an indie has, the chance taking that great creatives have, but we want to have the cloud of a major. So art plus impact, the impact of a major. And we feel that personified the very beginning of Warner Brothers Records back to the Warner Reprise days, when Mo, the record label survived because a comedy record blew up, and then Frank Sinatra, and then all this other stuff that innovated and kept going. And Warner was always on the cutting edge of what a label should be and could do, and grew into a monster, and we inherited that company that, candidly, it felt like it had lost its way, and not for the good people there without giving it a great effort. And there were some good things that happened, but really had lost a lot of momentum of what a Warner Brothers record should be. So carrying that forward, we tried to bring the best of it to pass. So we had this opportunity. So we changed the name, changed the logo, changed the mission statement. We have core values that have evolved. We revisited those and evolved those. And we have this wonderful new building, which it is an incredible place to work and a weapon for us that ironically right now we can't take advantage of. But that really a year ago we moved in, a year ago in March, and it just brought the company together. It was amazing. I mean, we have a giant open space with glass walls and lots of common working area, and it'll actually work very well when we do get back to work from a social distancing standpoint. Or back to the office. We're working, of course, but it's amazing when you think about the ability to have a place like that to work, and what it does to transform culture. And so and that's the thing, we're moving the culture. We had very little urban roster, and now it's 40% of what we have, and it's granted mostly brand new, but we're growing that on a daily basis, and we have lots of singles and doubles, to show for it. So that was really a part of the attraction to coming to Warner, because RCA is a great label. I had a great time there. We built a great momentum at that company. But to come and run Warner Brothers Records and revisit that, and the beauty of it is we have Lenny Warnaker still on the staff. Mo Austin's a consultant. They were both intimately involved in this conversation, because we wanted to take the best of what they brought to the label and bring it into this era.
Yeah. It was actually really fun. We really had a lot of good conversations, inspiring conversations, some debates, about really what Warner should stand for moving forward. And I think where we ended up is fantastic. And we like being sort of the major with the heart of an indie. You know, one of the things Tom and I had to do when we got in there to start the process of reimagining the label was to trim the roster, you know, which is never an easy thing to do. But, you know, we inherited some things we didn't feel were fit naturally into the fabric of what we wanted to do next. And we wanted to be free and clear to really invest in new talent. And that's what we've done in our first 18 months doing this together, is really turned our attention to investing in the next generation of superstars. But our roster is still sitting at just over 100 acts, you know? So a lot of the more powerhouse labels out there, you know, they're 2-3 times our size in terms of roster, but not in terms of people, not in terms of the global infrastructure. So we have such an opportunity for growth. But, you know, I like to say that the intention is never for us to be the biggest label. It's to be the most exciting. And if we're the most exciting and we have the most special acts, then naturally we're going to get to a point where perhaps we are the biggest and have the largest market share, because we just keep breaking artists left and right. But we're really, you know, taking a very measured, curated approach, and not rushing to the promised land. We want to do this right. We don't want Warner to ever be in a situation like it was when Tom and I took over. And I would rather go on this journey to success than this kind of, you know, anxiety making roller coaster of, oh, we have a hit today and now we're cold for 12 months. We have a hit today, now we're kind of steadily doing it and still looking for our opportunities to breathe an injection of a real quick hit. Of course, we want that to give some protection to some of the developing acts that are going to take a little bit longer. But, you know, when we looked at Mo and Lenny and what they built and saw Warner as a safe haven for artists and creative people, and that even if you weren't signed to Warner, you wanted to hang out with Warner Brothers artists, you wanted to hang out with Mo, you know, and when I asked Mo that direct question, how did you stay out of the bullshit? How do you always keep it about the music? You know, and he said, I don't have a secret answer for you, Aaron. You know, the company camaraderie was just amazing. The artists supported one another. The executives supported one another. There was no backstabbing. It was just about supporting artists and putting out great music and giving the artists the freedom to achieve their wildest dreams. And really at the root of what Warner Records is doing right now, we're trying to be the label that does that better than anybody else. And so, you know, that all got to be verbalized and showcased with this name change and the new mission statement and all of that stuff. So it really was an invigorating and exciting process.
You guys have a real advantage having started 18 months ago in the given climate, like, you know, where we are in the music industry. So when I took over the indie label that I ran, I took over in 2006, and literally the bottom of the, you know, the physical market just fell apart, and then we had a recession. You know, I mean, I sort of lived through the hard transition from physical to digital. And so you guys are sort of coming in right now where we have this robust streaming economy. We have, you know, technology and music melding in a way that they have really never done before in very positive ways for the industry. So you guys are sort of lucky to be able to rebrand at this moment when you get to sort of jump on this wave when everything is happening, and innovation is what people are excited about. And also, I think people got more nimble after that. You know, after the transition, people understood we can't just stay the way we were for 50 years. We actually have to be nimble and able to move, like you were saying, Tom, about sort of that indie label mentality of being able to pivot quickly. So I feel like you guys came in right at the right time.
Yeah, I think as a team we did, you know, having gone through the naughties, and they were very naughty myself, you know, I took a lot from that though, because when you jump into a situation like this quarantine, you know, you rely on your muscle memory, right? Even though it's very different than anything we've dealt with before. But I was, you know, at a nice level at companies through that entire time, and was part of the leadership team that had to restructure and look at things and pivot, and move, and understand, you know, what downloads meant and what streams meant and what social media meant, and how to measure it and how to not measure it, and how that affected global spin-ups of records and so forth and so on. So, you know, nimble is the name of the game. But there's no, I have to say, I don't think there's any replacement for experience. And I think that not just at Warner Records, I think we're seeing it across a lot of record labels and across a lot of management companies and live companies. And if you've been through tough times, it battle tests you for situations like this. And I'm really happy with our company. I don't think we missed a beat.
Yeah, nothing to add to that. I agree.
One thing about the present moment also is that there's been so much talk about, artist empowerment and artists, owning their own masters, and the whole Taylor Swift thing that went down. I have maybe a biased view about this, but people say that artists now are more educated and can come into a team building experience with more education than they have in the past. I have found that to be true and totally not true. Like, both of those things, and I still feel like it's important that we educate artists constantly about the business end of this business so that they can make good decisions for their own careers and futures. So how do you guys feel? Do you guys feel like this is a great opportunity? Do you feel like the artists you're working with are more engaged, are more aware, sort of get it more than they used to?
Yeah, definitely. The many of the unsigned artists we meet with are walking in, whether it's them or the team behind them, with a real understanding and knowledge of how you market and promote yourself in 2020. Often even better understandings of certain platforms and whatnot than we do, because they're constantly evolving, and a lot of these artists are very young, and they're the early adopters on a lot of this stuff. So but for those that don't, for those who, for lack of a better word, maybe got lucky, maybe they put out their first or second song and they don't even know what they did. They just made a great song and it worked. That happens too, and in those moments we surround it and we explain to them what a real partnership looks like, and give them a clear picture of how we are going to support them. Our fan engagement department, for example, run by the great Alyssa Ayati, who came to us from not the music space, which we love that she looks at things from a different point of view. Her and her team will take our artists through algorithm school, so they really understand how do you work up the algorithm on YouTube? How do you work it up on TikTok? How do you work it up on Instagram? They'll really educate them. And it's not necessary for everybody. We're definitely seeing, I think, more artists and teams that have a great handle on how to carry their own weight. But for the instances where there isn't, we're equipped for that.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to that. In a lot of the reasons the artists got the attention of Warner Records or other labels, because they know how to move at a certain level. What we're often there for is for scale, is to blow things up as big as they can be. So from that standpoint, that's often where we add value. Are we still doing artist development for acts that come in who really aren't developed to that degree? Yeah, absolutely. We can riddle off a number of them that we're working on right now and building the blocks there. But it's they educate us about how far they've gone and how they got there, and then our job is to bundle that into a nice package and take them to the next levels.
We also really educate our artists and teams on the deal making process. Sometimes deals are still sort of in the 1+ however many album option kind of framework. Other times these days they're in periods that are defined by a number of masters they need to be released during a period. But especially in a time of age where more is more and artists are expected to be releasing music on a constant basis, we're constantly going back to the artists and their representatives and saying, hey, let's reapproach the terms now, because we want to put out more music before we get to your album, because we think it's going to actually be better for you in the long run to put out another project or another mixtape or another EP prior to getting to your debut album that every artist is so eager to get to. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So, I feel more often than I have in my entire career, I'm having very frequent conversations with artists and their teams about the points in their actual contract, so they understand why we may want more product to help achieve the goal, why it's not just about us being greedy and wanting more product. It's about really what's going to set them up for success. And I'm finding artists to love that conversation. Of course, sometimes it's not always the easiest one, but we're having them, and we're teaching each other through the process.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have, this is just a straight A&R question, do you try to maintain a ratio between, you know, artists that you think are ready and then artists that are just like passion project baby artists that you want to develop?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely are very vigilant about balancing out the things that we know are simply just going to take 3, 4, 5+ years to really get ready for prime time. And then also sprinkling things in there that we just know already have the fan base, already have the audience, or already selling music. That balance is something myself, Tom, Max Lusada, our A&R team, we're constantly discussing it. You know, the primary mandate is don't ever let something truly amazing walk out the door, whether it's something that has nothing going on or something with everything going on. But yes, we there will come a point where we say to ourselves, you know what, we've just got to take a break on some of the heavy lifting and plug in a few quick wins.
So everybody's cooking along, you're doing great, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get this COVID-19 pandemic. Everything came to a screeching halt, as we all know. Everybody sort of froze in place, went home and stayed there. And the first move with a lot of people, a lot of labels, was to instantly push release dates back because people just, I don't know, that was just the initial reaction. Except you guys actually had your Dua Lipa album and you brought it up. You released it earlier. And I think that was an exciting moment for those of us who are just watching the industry, because that was like an exciting leap of faith and an innovation that you know, you guys really set yourselves off with that. And it was incredibly successful. Do you want to talk about making that decision?
Sure. Yeah. So it was a decision that we made very carefully with the artist, her management company, Ben, and his team at TAP, and our partners in the UK, Phil Christie and the UK company, and Joe Kentish, who delivered such a brilliant album. You know, and when we were debating what to do very, very carefully, and the feeling was maybe we should push this, maybe we should, you know, give it some more time. It's such a strange time, and it was literally right in the first week or two that everybody realized we're going to be home for a minute, you know, and this is getting serious and people are dying and going to the hospital and what the hell is going on? And you know, at the same time, Dua had 3 brilliant tracks out, including Don't Start Now, which is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest records at radio this year and streaming wise for us, and Physical and Break My Heart, and we were rolling, I mean, really rolling, and our date was April 3rd, and you know, we were just about to make a decision about what to do when the album leaked, you know, and we stared each other in the eyes, and at the end of the day, I applaud Dua, because you know, she could have been very easily said, you know, I don't feel comfortable with this. It's an odd time. I feel like it's disrespectful for people that are going through these issues, first responders, sick people, et cetera. And you know what? We all thought for that it was a really great idea, but she went with it and she owned it and she continues to own it. And what's come back is pretty phenomenal. The sales and streams and all that are wonderful. But what's come back is that her authenticity and her sincerity, and she really is a kind, lovely person, in addition to being an incredibly talented artist, is coming across, you know, and it's I think it's helping people. It's helping soothe people, and the feedback, and don't take my word for it. Go read the comments, go read the critics, all this stuff. And it's put her at a new level. She was already headed towards that level. She was being, you know, on the way to selling out arenas. Of course, that's been postponed, et cetera. But she's delivered the most incredible content at this time with the most elegance and honesty and vulnerability. You know, it's amazing. But I also have to throw a shout out to the guys to Party Next Door and our partners at OVO, because you know, that was a record that we went with day and date as well on the 27th, and those and we didn't blink, and they didn't blink either. You know, Party was in the middle of it. The OVO team, Morgan and his crew, and all the guys in Toronto and 40, and we focused, and we had this great Rihanna record that jumped in, Believe It, and that's done incredible business. We had 2 top 10 records that week. So you know, my view and our label's view is that yeah, there are reasons to postpone things, and if you have a major ticket bundle situation that informs the music, so forth and so on, and that was part of the Dua you know, sacrifice we had to make at that moment. But if the market is ready for your music, we strongly believe it should come out. And you know what? It'll find the best level possible. We'll do a super competent job. The artists and the management team will play their part. Our global team will get behind it. And we've proven that we can deliver. And I think there are other artists in the market who've done a great job too, not just Warner Records, but music is one of the bright spots of this pandemic. And it's what people need. It was proved through 9/11. It's been proven through the Gulf War. It's been proved, over and over again. And maybe that's one of the benefits I have of being at this point in my career, having looked back on all these things and having gotten on planes and gone into places when, I've flown on empty planes, during the Gulf War. I've flown on empty planes right after 9/11. And you know what? You've got to keep the music playing. You've got to keep it moving. And if an artist is willing to take that leap of faith and they have the right record, they're going to win.
Yeah.
They're going to win.
I agree completely. My takeaway from what Dua did and what Party did, to single those two out in particular, is they just showcased how bold they are. What you can see as a through line through the entire DNA of Warner Brothers and Warner Records history is the fearlessness of the artists who were the most successful. And not only was Dua, for instance, putting her baby out in a time that really could have been risky, she was doing it with a sound that nobody else was doing also. Yeah. And that was, I think, such a big part of the breakthrough here, is she just was willing to say, I believe in this. I think the world is ready for it. And here it is. And we always do our best work when we have artists who have a strong point of view and have a vision. And it's our job to nurture that and push them over the edge. It's not our job to dictate how an artist should go about their business. We can give them advice all day, but we got to follow their lead. That's and to know that we were supporting artists and managers and a label partner in OVO that were really understand fearlessness and go for it, go swing for the fences every time. It was just really exciting for us as a company to watch that all unfold.
Yeah, we'd also, that's exactly right. I'd also like to shout out, our established artists, the Michael Bublé of the world, Josh Groban, Green Day and Billy, Neil Young. I mean, the cornerstone of Warner Records, and Reprise, banging it out in the Rocky Mountains, doing his thing, lining up releases. So it's everyone figured it out really quickly, and we were doing our best to support that.
So how have you guys been supporting your staff during this time? I mean, I think, leadership positions have instantly transitioned to, a very, very important, they've always been important, but now they're important in a different way because you have people that you have to support instantaneously overnight. How's that going for you guys?
Well, it was a great relief, to see that the revenue was still coming in pretty much at capacity. We have some challenges with artist services and with sync and a few other things, but you've seen the streaming numbers, so they're holding up, which is great. So we're not in a restructuring conversation, which is the first thing that you want to assure everybody of, that they have a job, and we can back that up. Second thing is we have an incredibly enthusiastic and close team. We have great leadership across the company, and we brought in some really terrific leaders who we encourage them immediately to reach out to their staffs, give us feedback. Tech support's critical. People have to, they're home. Take a break, with the kids if you need to. If you're a caregiver, take care. Advising them on guidelines, and because remember, we're not just in LA, we're in New York, we're in Atlanta, we're in Nashville, we have a field staff. We want to make sure we have weekly conference calls with our entire company. We also have daily conference calls with our department heads. And the goal, and I have to say, going to the center of Warner Music Group with Max Assad and Steve Cooper and Masha Shrova, who's our HR person, they have been incredible and very transparent and super supportive. So we're very fortunate, and it's all about communication. And if somebody needs something, there's healthcare involved, mental health care involved, and we're working, and that's looking forward now anywhere from a month to 6 months, as much as any of us can read the future at this point, and how we're going to reopen and how we're going to do that and what that looks like in one city versus another. And, it's all a bit of a moving target right now, but I'm really, I said before, we couldn't be more proud of our staff.
Yeah. The silver lining of it is we've learned a lot of good new practices. You know, our meetings are more efficient.
Everyone's on time. It's really weird. Everybody's on time. So weird. Everyone's on time for the meetings, you know?
And look, as someone who's, you know, for the better part of the last 20 years, been at either a work dinner, a studio session, or a show every night of my life, there is something to be said for having a moment to reset, you know, I'm still up at the crack of dawn starting my day, but, you know, come 7 o'clock, it's nice to be able to say, I don't have to be somewhere else right now. I can close the computer. I can enjoy a wonderful dinner with my fiance. I can catch up with a friend on the phone who I haven't had a chance to speak to. And then if I have more work to do, I dive back into it. But it's actually lending itself to some really healthy bits that have affected positively our workflow and productivity. But to Tom's point, our company hasn't missed a beat. We're connected and speaking to everybody every day. The weekly meetings that we have, nothing's been canceled. It's all full steam ahead on all fronts.
Yeah, it is different though. You know, I do miss the personal interaction, the vibe that pops off in a room. You can be on a Zoom call and have all these squares in front of you and everyone's being attentive. You know, it's tricky and you miss a little bit of the spontaneity, but I will say that it does provide more discipline.
Yeah, I will say, I made this comment to our staff on our weekly staff call a couple weeks ago. I wasn't really, more than I thought, enjoying this. You know, I was enjoying the change of pace. I was really getting into a good groove working from home. And then as soon as I was loving it, I started hating it again. Like I was busy, we were having success, but there was something missing. And I couldn't really put my finger on what that was until I had a catch up with our partners at Warner Chappell, and I was speaking to Guy Moot, and we both acknowledged sort of at the same time that, yeah, we're doing our jobs, but we're not living them. And that really resonated for me because our job is a lifestyle. We choose to do this not because we like music, but because we want to live and breathe what comes along with working with artists, the creation of music, the connecting with fans, the experience of seeing these things live. Like, that's all part of why I do this, and I assume why everyone else who chooses to do this for a career and does it successfully wants to do it also. And so I that part, to Tom's point, I'm missing the living part of it. And that comes with real human-to-human connection and getting to be in the same room with people. And so that part is unfortunate that we don't have that right now. Sorry, there's a plane going overhead. I don't know if you're picking that up.
Okay, the guys are coming to cut our shrubs right now, so we're having a technical moment. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, you know, and it's just ironic because this would have been Music Biz 2020. This would have been the final day, and, you know, we would have all been together, 2,400 people in the JW Marriott, you know, and that's a feeling like no other. And that's part of why we get into this. That's exactly what you said. You know, we love that camaraderie and being able to be together. So if this is the second best thing, I'm happy that we're doing it, and I appreciate that. What are you guys telling your artists in terms of just basically the touring piece? Because right now, I mean, doesn't seem like touring's happening in the foreseeable future. Like, what are you guys encouraging your artists to do? Those live streams? Are you how are you situating them?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're encouraging them to create, right? So on every level, and we're working, building out studio options for them. I think we have 13 options there and coming online pretty soon.
Yep.
We have a company that is part of the Warner family called Uprocks, who is got sound stages that they're readying for content creation. We are putting our best creative ideas together in terms and solution based with internal and external partners and shooting video and photo sessions, and that's come online a little bit better than we'd hoped. So that feels good. The live side it's a conundrum, you know. On the phone earlier with Corn Capshaw and Will Botwin, our friends at Red Light, and you know, you're better off asking them. But you know, the live stream thing is fine, it's great, but it's crowded, you know. So how do you do it? Just like any good idea, gets saturated. And how do you innovate, and how do you mutate that into something that is different and sticky, you know? And so eventually people will get over those things. But if you mentioned Travis earlier, and his Fortnite activation was brilliant, you know? So those are the sort of things that we're constantly working on. And actually we have a bunch in the pipeline right now that hopefully will have a significant impact on the market.
Yeah. But on my side of things, it's as Tom started that, it's all about what we're calling this return to productivity. You know, we don't want our artists to feel, you know, if they're feeling unsafe about working with other people, then that's their right. And we're certainly not pushing anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with. But we're working tirelessly to provide the ability for our artists to stay as creative as they possibly want to be. You know, making sure that whatever city that they are in, they have what they need to stay focused and creative, because they're going to need to keep putting music out. There is no break so that they can go on the road for 3 months. This is all about stockpiling really amazing stuff, so that when touring does kick back into high gear, we're stacked. We don't need to worry about when the next piece of product is coming.
Believe us, we want touring to come back fast.
Yeah, of course,
you know?
we do.
It's critical part of the proposition.
Yeah, we definitely did have a few artists whose rollouts were really intertwined with some pretty fantastic live opportunities. And those artists, you know, weren't able to have those moments, and we feel for them, and we could have used them as a company. So we're very eager for the live side to find its footing again.
Yeah, we all are. And, you know, it goes back to what you said, Aaron. You know, we're excited to get back into that world as members of the industry. You know, it's like, I miss that part too. It's not just that I miss leaving my house. I actually miss going to shows, being with other people and talking about stuff.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
exactly.
Well, we appreciate your time so much, you guys. We're excited with what you've been doing, and we can't wait to see what's coming next. So thanks so much for being with us today on Music Biz Live.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
This is great. Thanks, Portia. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. So thank you to my guests, and thanks to the audience. This has been an amazing week. We've had so much engagement and so many people visiting. We are thrilled. It's been great. I look forward to when we can regroup in person, of course. But in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you at the next Music Biz Live.